It was a shocking revelation, yet there was little surprise in Guy's heart. He had entertained the thought that it might be so. Though there had been no signs of a resurrection, he had felt a premonition, a gut feeling that it was coming. When was it? When did that bastard come back to life? Probably. A long, long time ago. To Velzard, who made this submission with a tormented look, Guy responded casually, "Is that so?" Hearing this response, Velzard flew into a rage once more. "Even if you oppose my brother, there's no way you can win. If you're just going to be killed by him anyway, I'd rather end it for you with my own hands." She knew it was irrational, but Velzard couldn't stand it. She absolutely could not tolerate the idea of Guy being killed by someone else. If his opponent was Veldanava, there was no guarantee Guy could be resurrected. If it came to that, she wanted to be the one to kill him. That way, at least Guy would be able to come back to life. However, Guy paid no mind to Velzard's feelings. This is why he's so, she thought, but she also felt it was just like Guy to be that way. Me losing to Veldanava is ancient history, you know. Next time, I'll win. You called me a fool, but you're a much bigger one. There's no way you can win. Clinging to Guy's chest, Velzard looked up at him as she spoke. It might be impossible alone. That's why I need you to help me. You'll fight by my side, won't you? Right, Velzard. Wah. Velzard was left speechless. By Guy's sheer arrogance. And by how utterly characteristic those words were of him. And so, Velzard unleashed her true feelings upon Guy. I hate you. I really, 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 really hate you. I hate you, hate you, hate you, hate you, I hate you so much it's helpless, and I love you. Velzard confessed with all her heart. Guy's response to this was utterly nonchalant. Yeah, I knew. Just a simple phrase, spoken as if it were nothing at all. At this, Velzard could only stand there, dumbfounded. You're arrogant. It's infuriating. Aren't I? That's the proof that I am who I am. This just makes me look like a fool for worrying all by myself. Beautiful teardrops flowed down Velzard's pale cheeks. It was as if they were proof that her frozen heart was beginning to melt. Yeah, I think so too. Isn't that the part where you deny it and comfort me? Why would I? That's a pain in the ass. More importantly, Velzard, hurry up and take back control of your body and snap out of it. Even now, in the material world, Velzard was still rampaging. Rimuru would likely handle it somehow, but this wasn't the time for a long conversation. As usual, you aren't very kind to me. Is that so? You're my partner. I don't need to walk on eggshells around you. We're practically family, aren't we? Partner. Family. Famiel. Velzard's face, buried in Guy's chest, turned bright red in an instant. Flustered, Velzard jumped back from Guy. It wasn't the meaning she had hoped for. It was different, she thought. Because Guy is kind. He was just trying to persuade her, she told herself. Unaware of Velzard's agitation, Guy remained completely composed. Am I wrong? We've been together forever. In human terms, that makes us a married couple, doesn't it? Married couple. Guy's voice, detestably arrogant, echoed in Velzard's heart. Despite never having even confessed his love, he skipped every step of the process and jumped straight to marriage. Velzard was overwhelmed by the sheer leap in Guy's logic. And yet, she didn't hate it. A married couple. Would Guy. Just savoring those words made Velzard's heart feel warm. It seemed that even her cold ore, capable of freezing all creation, would have trouble cooling her burning cheeks. Hey now, don't just stand there spacing out like an idiot. Get back here already, Guy said, completely oblivious to Velzard's feelings. Urged once again, Velzard could only smile wryly. Though she found Guy's attitude a little disappointing, she felt relieved by his usual demeanor. Things were back to normal. Yes, you're right. I really am such a fool. Think so. But hey, I don't hate it, you know. That side of you. At Guy's words, Velzard let out a small laugh. The childish Velzard was no longer there. She had returned to her true self, a beautiful, graceful woman wearing a smile that looked as though all her worries had been swept away. It was proof that the hesitation had vanished from Velzard's heart. The light of strong reason had returned to her eyes. With a bashful smile that would captivate anyone who saw it, Velzard whispered softly to Guy, I'm home. Velzard, having assumed the form of a beautiful woman, asked Guy with a serious expression. Are you really sure? Do you truly intend to oppose my brother? Little late to ask that now. The Veldanava I knew wasn't the type to sneak around in the shadows. If he were serious, he could destroy this world all on his own. That was Guy's honest sentiment. Because of that, he could sever his lingering attachment to Veldanava without hesitation. Veldanava is gone, he concluded. You really are strong, Guy. I was afraid of my brother. After he resurrected, he slept in the Star Palace to recover his strength. He was in the innermost chamber, where only Feldway and I could enter, the whole time. And he woke up only recently. So, the fact that he didn't stop that bastard Feldway means that was Veldanava's will, too? Yes, that's right. My brother wished for the destruction of this world. That is why I tried to save you by freezing you. That was the truth, as far as Velzard was concerned. She could not defy Veldanava. Therefore, she had intended to ride along with his plan to ensure that Guy and as many others as possible would survive, so that they might live again in the new world. Now that that strategy was off the table, it was all or nothing. Either they defeat Veldanava, or everything gets destroyed and rebuilt from zero. You should have talked to me about it. You of all people are saying that. I suppose so. Guy harbored complex feelings toward Veldanava. Though they hadn't met in thousands of years, his fond memories had not faded. No, because of that. He could not forgive the Veldanava that Velzard described. He wouldn't pull a cheap stunt like this. That was the conclusion Guy reached. It was at this exact moment that Guy designated Veldanava as an enemy. Velzard shifted her mindset as well. I understand. I've sealed my resolve, too. However, my brother will likely find out about my betrayal immediately. As long as she possessed the authority granted by Veldanava, Velzard's actions would be completely transparent to him. Even setting that aside, it was impossible to even step into the ring to fight using power borrowed from the very enemy one intends to oppose. Guy sensed this and pondered. Unlike my prideful King Lucifer, Velzard's patience King Gabriel is a pure authority crafted by Veldanava. Leaving it as it is seems like a bad move for the future. Since they were opposing Veldanava, they had to win. To do so, they needed to take every possible countermeasure and eliminate any potential weaknesses. At the very least, they needed to use this opportunity to purge any powers borrowed from the one they now deemed an enemy. Your authority isn't limited to patience, King Gabriel, right? Yes, that's right. I'm sure you've already figured it out, but thanks to acquiring the ultimate skill Envy King Leviathan, I was able to escape Michael's ultimate dominion. Velzard explained her powers to Guy, how she had deceived Feldway and the others by utilizing two conflicting ultimate skills. Does that mean that bastard Feldway hasn't realized Veldanava has resurrected either? I suppose so. For some reason, my brother hid the fact of his resurrection. I thought he intended to stay quiet until he regained his power, but it seems he had another objective. Though I don't know what that is, Velzard added. Feldway really is a pitiful bastard, isn't he? Is he? My brother is so different from how he used to be, it might actually be happier for Feldway not to meet him. Is it that bad? Yes. True dragons are immortal, but their personalities change when they are reborn. His memories are inherited, but he is not the brother you knew, Velzard asserted. Is that so? Guy nodded. In that case, I'll beat the hell out of him without holding back. Do you have a concrete plan? I'll figure that out later. First, we need to do something about your authority. As usual, Guy was winging it. Because he was the strongest, he rarely needed to overthink things. It was a bad habit, but since he had a track record of always making things work out, Velzard found she couldn't complain. That's why I always get dragged along. She wasn't entirely without complaints, but she also found joy in it, which was a problem in itself. What do you plan to do with my authority? I can suppress Patience King Gabriel with Envy King Leviathan, so as long as I don't rely on the former, there won't be an issue. Guy wasn't convinced by Velzard's claim that she could fight without relying on the authority. That shady slime Rimuru mentioned something about authorities being able to evolve. I'm sure your Envy King Leviathan was born that way, but you should be able to aim even higher. Is that true? Yeah. It looks like Rimuru did something for Velgrund, too. I see. There was no hesitation in Guy's words. They carried a powerful conviction that Rimuru could do it. Velzard almost felt jealous of the trust he showed, but her heart remained calm. However, being told to entrust herself to some mysterious slime wasn't something she could simply nod and agree to immediately. It wasn't that Velzard hated Rimuru, and in a sense, she did trust him. He was certainly suspicious in some ways, but Rimuru had the track record of rehabilitating Vildor. The fact that he could discipline that wild rampager was enough to acknowledge him as sufficiently impressive. I'll leave it to him this time, Velzard decided. You make it sound so simple. Very well. To live up to your expectations, I will try putting my faith in Rimuru. I knew you'd say that. Alright then, I'll go back and tell Rimuru. You just prepare yourself mentally and wait here. Leaving those words behind, Guy's astral body departed from Velzard's core. In an instant, Guy's consciousness danced back into his own physical body. Guy, now in female form, had surrendered his consciousness and was being cradled in Diablo's arms. Black and red, a handsome man and a beautiful woman, they certainly made a striking pair. Guy must be making contact via his astral body right now, in order to speak directly to Velzard's heart core. Just like when I touched Chloe's heart core to save Hinata, he must be in a defenseless state. I thought it was reckless, but he likely judged that he couldn't save Velzard otherwise. I suspect there is a bond of trust between them that no outsider could intrude upon. Hoping he would succeed in persuading her, I decided to pray for his success as well. Then, several minutes passed. To be honest, I had nothing to do and was bored. Time flows differently in the spiritual world, so it wouldn't be strange for Guy or Velzard to wake up at any moment. So I needed to stay alert, but since I was enveloping the cold air and magic waves emitting from Velzard with my nihility collapse, they weren't affecting the outside world. In other words, absolutely nothing was happening. Since just watching was boring, I decided to observe Velzard. Enveloped in my nihility collapse, Velzard was in her hauntingly beautiful dragon mode. Her magical quantity was immense, surpassing even the evolved Velgrand. It was terrifying enough to be practically on par with Eldor. And here I was, suppressing that Velzard without any trouble. It surprised even me, but it seemed my own magical quantity had become something substantial as well. It seems being able to pull off such a rough feat is thanks to acquiring God of Void Azathoth. The more I hear about it, the more outrageous this authority seems. I had been sent flying to the end of the world by Feldway's chronosultation, but that only resulted in giving Seal San time for research. I received various explanations myself, but it goes without saying that I couldn't understand most of it. I prided myself on being reasonably smart, but being told conceptual things like the speed of light is not constant or time is not immutable, sounding like, that's just your opinion, isn't it? I couldn't even grasp how that related to my abilities. To explain what that means. Simply put, the ultimate skill God of Void Azathoth is basically an overwhelming mass of energy. The nihility collapse I'm using right now is actually absolute destructive factor minus energy, accumulated at the end of the world. Even Seal San seemed to have trouble handling it, but as a result of researching it over infinite time, she can now easily divert it for use. Yeah, that's amazing. When I asked, is it like switching from a nuclear fission reactor to a fusion reactor? She flatly denied it, saying no. With a serious vibe. Apparently, she wanted more praise, but I think it's wrong to expect detailed attentiveness from me. I hardly controlled it using God of Void Azathoth, and that's how I became able to use it properly. Since it was the empty end of the world, it didn't lead to a catastrophe, but I couldn't perform such dangerous experiments in the cardinal world. I'll have to rely on God of Void Azathoth from now on, but I considered that acceptable. And then there's Diablo. Using nihility collapse to strengthen oneself looks solid at first glance, but it was an extremely dangerous method. Seal San had also devised a similar usage method. It involves circulating energy within a closed world, named the secret art of the cycle. It sounds cool, but essentially, it's energy recycling. By creating a state that prevents energy dispersion using space-dominating abilities, it prevents the circulated energy from depleting. This is possible because my slime cells have the trait of infinite regeneration. Precisely because I can regenerate faster than the breakdown speed caused by the extremely vicious nihility, I can utilize the minus energy. However, Diablo utilized his authority, Temptation World, to deceive his own body, causing a phenomenon similar to the secret art of the cycle. Normally, it would be suicidal, so I was amazed that he was unharmed. If my return had been delayed a little longer, Diablo's body would have turned to dust and vanished. No, Seal San probably timed it so that wouldn't happen, though. That Diablo is now being taught the secret art of the cycle by Seal San. She's explaining it as my words, but that's a stretch no matter how you think about it. Even I'm not as smart as Seal San, so Diablo must surely be sensing something is off. Regardless, unlike me, Diablo seems to understand Seal San's explanation. As expected of him. They were happily holding a conversation, so I felt incredibly left out. I'm envious that he can hold a conversation with Seal San. Benimaru and the others probably couldn't do it either. The only others who might be capable are Testarossa or Ultima, maybe. Carrera feels more like the instinct and intuition type, rather than logic and theory, so she probably wouldn't like logical conversations.